On today's show, we knew that this was a must-win game against the Pacers, but I'm not quite sure we expected it was going to be one of the most memorable games of the entire regular season. Jrue Holiday drops 50. Giannis has the quickest triple-double of his career, and Grayson Allen nearly launched himself into the crowd on one of the great dunks of the season. There's plenty to talk about. The Bucks did get the win as well. That means a lot.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Bucks. My name is Kane Pittman. You can see and hear me on this show Monday to Friday and find my work over at ESPN alongside me, the founder of brewhoop.com and longtime voice of the podcast, Frank Madden. As always, we thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first watch or first listen of every day. And the tweets have been coming through. People are excited for this show because it was one of the fun games of the season. There's no doubt. If you haven't yet, subscribe, drop a comment, like, all that stuff. It helps us big time. It's free to do so on YouTube or the audio platform. And particularly today, get your thoughts in on this game tonight because it was a lot of fun on the YouTube stream. And also, Bucks and Celtics tomorrow, leading into a big game. Now, Frank, let's dive straight into it. I already mentioned you get the 50 burger from Jrue. You get the 38, 17, and 12 from Giannis. Some unbelievable dunks. Let me just read a stat before I throw it to you. This is NBA history. Only 3 pairs of teammates in NBA history have combined for 85 points, 25 rebounds, and 20 assists in a game. Elgin Baylor and Wilt Chamberlain in 69. Wilt Chamberlain and Guy Rogers in 1962. And then Giannis and Jrue tonight in Indiana in a game that helps the Bucks extend the lead at the top of the East. What a night. What a crazy, crazy night.
It's funny. I think I would have enjoyed it more if I didn't spend like most of the first 3 quarters just sort of aggravated at the fact that the Bucks once again could not Frank, stop the Indiana Pacers. Yeah. I mean, it was just an incredible performance from Jrue Holiday. I mean, we had who was it? Somebody was joking in our mentions that you published the podcast earlier this week about, should we be concerned? Yes. Freeman Flash tweeted at us. I feel like this Jrue Holiday performance is a direct response to this episode of I think it was from earlier this week where it was, is Jrue Holiday's recent scoring dip a concern for the Milwaukee Bucks? We talked about it. His scoring numbers are down, but I think we saw tonight when needed, Jrue Holiday can still go get you a bucket. And I mean, the only disappointment was, I started to think, man, he's got a shot at Michael Redd's team scoring record, and probably could have gone for it. I mean, the fact that he goes 20 for 30 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 8 of 10 from the foul line, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, plus 26, and in only 32 minutes, Giannis also only played 32 minutes. That was probably the most remarkable part. And if they had, if the Pacers had not finally lost touch a bit at the end there, Bucks going up by 20 plus points, sort of in the second half of the fourth quarter, then we might have seen, an even more historic night from the two of them than we already did, right? They were able to eventually pull Jrue with a few minutes left, and by that point he had kind of taken his foot off the gas a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was, we always talk about Jrue's ability to get to his spots and just kind of bully, not even smaller guards, just wings, power forwards sometimes. I mean, there's almost like nobody that he can't like bully and move and get out of the way so he can get to the spots he likes in the paint around the basket. And this was, just the absolute epitome of that for him to, a guy who I think has had 3 previous games in the regular season scoring 40, but was his previous regular season like 41 or something like that? Like, I mean, he's not been a guy that has scored like 48 or 46 points in a game. So to blast all the way through 50 and could have had, mid 50s if he had really needed to or set his mind to, just a vintage Jrue Holiday performance. And Pacers were second and third quarters when the Pacers were really just running up and down the floor, getting easy buckets, pushing the pace, much like we saw the last time these teams played and the Pacers won. The Bucks had the ultimate cheat code. They had Giannis Antetokounmpo, who obviously is normally the guy that we talk about in these terms, but they also had Jrue Holiday, and it just felt like every time the Bucks, kind of let go of the rope a little bit, game got within, 4 points, sometimes 2 points. Jrue was there to either get, another easy two-pointer around the paint or get a 3-point play. And, again, even with Indiana having some big sort of shooting runs here and putting up an absolute ton of points yet again, it really was Jrue and Giannis carrying the load on a night when Chris Middleton and Joe Ingles were getting rested, and obviously they were missing that shot creation. But certainly we're not missing them on the scoreboard, because 149 points is absurd no matter who the opponent is.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. So 89 of the 149 come from just those two guys alone. And you're right, there was multiple people that were tweeting me this podcast from the other day. And now I will say that very clearly, I said from the start, there is no need to panic, but it's been a talking point the last 12 games, because I think the offensive responsibility shifts a little bit. And when you have Joe Ingles playing and Chris Middleton playing, the ball's in their hands a lot more. So there's no disputing the numbers have been down for Jrue Holiday. But I think big picture, if you look at it, if you just ask me who I think are the top three scorers on this team, or the top three offensively gifted guys, I'm probably still going Giannis, Chris, Brook Lopez. But if Jrue Holiday, and whatever, you can come up with whatever order you want. Jrue brings different things to the tables. We know he's got the step back. He can be physically dominant and get into the paint like he did tonight. But either way, I just think big picture, I mean, the Bucks have got four guys that can really take over a game offensively. So I did have a few other people pointing out to me, yeah, but Chris didn't play tonight, so the talking point continues. No. There can be no one out there that can say that the Bucks are a better team for having fewer offensive options on the floor. So I think, like it was at the start of the week when Jrue was having a bit of a down period, the Bucks offense was still way up on the season, because having all these variety of options just leaves them in a really good place. So tonight was fun, no doubt about it. I don't know if Drew's going to get you another 50-point game. I'd take it in the postseason, but I don't go in expecting it, Frank. But he plays a different role.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about tomorrow night against the Boston Celtics. The last time the Celtics and Bucks played, Jrue was awesome against the Celtics and was, probably the biggest single reason why they were able to win that game. He's going to have a hard time delivering an encore performance to this 50 burger on Thursday night. But hopefully, hey, if he gives us 20 points against the Boston Celtics, we'd probably be pretty happy with that. But yeah, tremendous. And, we're basically not even going to talk about Brook Lopez tonight, but oh yeah, we're talking about him the other night and how many 20+ point games he's had this year. By the way,
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, 9 of 14 from the field, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 3 blocks, plus 22 from Brook. Obviously they challenged him a lot. They got up and down the floor. But at the end of the day, they couldn't solve, Brook. They couldn't run him off the floor, whatever, whatever those things that people used to talk about, like, oh, they're going to play, the big center off the floor, whatever. No, you just can't do that with Brook Lopez anymore. And he was really good tonight as well. But obviously, the story was two guys at the top, and Giannis, I thought, set the tone. I think he had 13 points in the first quarter. And I mean, just look at the numbers. We're like barely going to talk about Giannis, and look at this stat line: 38 points. Okay, we see him put up high 30s on the reg. 14 of 18 from the field, 10 of 14 from the free throw line. Didn't attempt 3-pointer. 17 rebounds, 12 assists, plus 20 in just 32 minutes. Just an absolute legendary stat stuffing performance. I mean, nothing you can complain about. I mean, and I think Giannis really took on a lot more of the playmaking responsibilities tonight. I mean, Jrue always, has the ball in his hands a fair bit. Tonight it was even more. Obviously, I think tonight he obviously felt like, he had the ability to take a lot of shots as well, and they needed him to be more of a scorer given some of the guys that were resting. But with Giannis, I think you take Chris and Joe Ingles out of the rotation. Those are obviously wings who do a lot of pick and roll playmaking, a lot of ball handling, a lot of initiation, and obviously Giannis is going to handle the ball a fair bit regardless of who's available or not available on a given night. But they definitely needed him to be more of a playmaker tonight, and I thought his patience overall was just really good all night. Basically, he got very impatient in the first few minutes of this game when he got pretty blatantly pushed on an alley-oop. I think he went around and gave every official on the floor an earful, picked up the technical foul. I was a bit worried because he got the tech and he kind of kept talking and talking. Thankfully, the officials kind of let him get that out of his system. And from there on, it felt like, okay, Giannis is now just in like Terminator mode. You've made the big green guy angry, and he was just on a mission kind of throughout the game. Had 20 points, I think. I don't know if he got to 10 rebounds by halftime, but I think he was at like 29 and 8 or something like that at halftime. Gets to the triple double literally within the first few minutes of the third quarter, and again, just his playmaking, patience, moving the ball. Was really great to see and important, because at various points the Pacers did try to throw those extra bodies at him and try to load up against Giannis with either zones or just sending an extra guy to help. And I thought his patience was obviously a big asset, and he took what they gave him, and he ended up taking a whole lot on a night when he put up yet again just another monster scoring line.
He certainly did, and there was some frustration from our old friend Jordan Wara throughout the night. We'll maybe get to him because, he found himself on the wrong end of a poster, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit as well as we continue to go through this game. First, Ultimate Basketball GM. You've heard me talk about this, the Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. It's a fun game. I'm not a computer guy. I'm not playing phone games. I don't have time for that, Frank. But this one is a little bit different because it's pretty cool. You get to do all the stuff that you would think that you get to do in the front office. So you're dealing with personalities of the players with the Bucks, all pretty good personalities, maybe not an issue. But you get to trade players. We've discussed the offseason and what the Bucks are going to do. So if you're the GM of the Bucks, you get to go through your own offseason, what you would do with all these players, sign contracts, hire and fire coaches, all the stuff that you would do as a GM. So it's pretty realistic stuff, and it is really, really fun to do. So Locked On Bucks listeners, we've got 100% free boost to your franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probasketballgm.com, scan the code on the YouTube screen right now, or look it up in the app stores. So it's all pretty easy to do, and honestly, a really fun game. That's probasketballgm.com, Ultimate Basketball GM. Start your dynasty today. You mentioned the tech early for Giannis, and we've discussed over time what Thanasis can bring to the table. And I was kind of with you. I was like, gee, Giannis, and particularly the way he got up and sort of went at the official. And by the way, that play from the Pacers player, I don't even know who it was, that they call that the Chris Paul, because when Giannis is about to throw down an alley-oop and there's nothing you can do, you just give him a shove. It was a ridiculous no call and a pretty dangerous play, to be honest. So I understand why Giannis was pissed off about this, but he was still pacing up and down the sideline. It looked like Bud was kind of there, but he didn't really know what to do about Giannis in this mood at the moment. And the only player that could do anything was Thanasis, who sat him down and just had the two hands on the shoulders, whispered some stuff in his ear. And, Giannis was pretty well in control for most of the night after that. And I honestly, we say, what does Thanasis? He doesn't play a lot. But in those situations, it honestly seems, from the outside that it's genuinely helpful. And so Thanasis, for me, wanting to see Giannis play the rest of this game, I thought that was pretty nice. Two posters. So I'm sitting on my living room couch and I'm cracking up laughing.
So many posters in this game.
I messaged that DM, Frank, and you would have seen it. I said, I think that was just the greatest 2 minutes of my life, because Giannis threw down the dunk on Jalen Smith. He went so far, he slid almost to the front row on the sideline after this Giannis poster, and Giannis did the mean mug, but he had the tongue out. That is a new variation, some extra aggression on that mean mug. And then Grayson Allen, I'll throw it to you, Frank, but this was the most absurd poster where he's tried it a few times. This time he actually finished it. Jordan Wara with a little forearm to the breadbasket. And Allen landed in a scary way from a high distance. But I reckon that he was that fired up. That arm could have been literally hanging off or hanging on by a thread, and he still would have been that fired up. But I imagine he's going to be sore later. That was just a crazy 2-minute stretch.
Yeah, well, first let's talk about the Giannis dunk. I mean, basically he was being doubled, then the second defender went away, and he kind of turned around and realized the guy wasn't there, and just goes straight at the rim. And I mean, I think what was kind of unusual at this was that, I mean, it was a full two-handed, poster on Jalen Smith and the foul. I mean, there's nothing more satisfying than the poster where like the other guy just like fouls you, but still goes just like crashing to the floor because you just physically overwhelm him. And that was just an absolute, just like, man-sized dunk. That was a fun one to watch. I mean, he also had another really nice one earlier in the game. I think Aaron Nesmith had the misfortune of being back 1v1 against Giannis in a transition situation, and Giannis basically just sort of got Neesmith to back up just enough, and then Statue of Liberty all over him with the one hand. But the Grayson Allen dunk, it was almost bizarre. Like it almost felt like the officials didn't really see the contact, and they called the foul mainly because of the way he just like fell sideways and just like really hard went down. And as you said, if you just see the way he goes down and you didn't see him pop back up immediately and start screaming at the Bucks bench, you would have been like, oh my God, like, did that just like, separate his shoulder, end his season? Like it was a really hard fall. But fortunately, he ended up being okay. And yeah, just kind of a weird play. You got kind of up with Jordan Nwora attacking the basket. And, normally it's kind of hard, especially when you're a smaller guy. It's kind of hard to like raise up, and because when a guy's like leaning on you, it's kind of hard to like get your full explosion, going to the basket. So
is this from experience, or is that?
Well, no, but just physically. I mean, like if you've played basketball, right? Like I'm not not that I've ever like been dunking, but like you just when you're just being leaned on, you can't jump well, right? No matter like how small your hops are in my case. And we see it too, right? Like if you have this sort of physical contact, it can be kind of hard, right? At times you can use physical contact like that to keep the defender off balance so that they can't challenge you appropriately. But it's pretty rare unless you're, like a Giannis type physical freak to be able to just raise up and dunk like that. So for Grayson, I mean, we know he's a guy that has explosion. We know that he's obviously got athleticism. We see, obviously, especially in the open floor, we saw that dunk the past week where he had that really nice breakaway dunk where he went from the dotted line. But for him to raise up, I don't know, it almost just seemed like it was like there was a little bit of the like, like did the contact almost make him be able to get up higher or something like that? It was just an impressive dunk. So papered over the fact that was Grayson's only basket all game. He had 3 points and they all came on that single play. Otherwise, he didn't do anything in this game. So, yeah, the biggest highlight for Grayson Allen, also the only one, but that definitely a fun dunk. And there've been a bunch of dunks between these teams that have been really fun. I mean, Miles Turner had the dunk on Giannis in the last game when the Pacers won that one, but we've seen a number of dunks. Giannis had that crazy one-handed dunk where he kind of went like sideways, almost getting fouled in the previous win in Indiana. So yeah, just again, giving the fans their money's worth a little bit. And oh, by the way, too, let's not forget as well, Jordan Nwora getting just like freight trained by Giannis, I think in the fourth quarter. And Nwora goes down, gets the foul, and Giannis just yams on him. And I think it was, who was it? So number 22, I forget who it was, tried to challenge Giannis as well. And again, it's just like with Giannis, like we don't even, like that's not even going to be like discussed as a highlight play, but it's an absurd play. He's literally going end to end, taking contact, drawing a foul, throwing down a dunk on another dude. I mean, I don't know, like the stuff Giannis does just going end to end. I mean, we try not to be, completely just sort of numb to it, right? Even though he does it so much. But I think back to the comment, remember when Kareem was like, oh, I wish my coaches had encouraged me to, dribble up and down the floor or whatever. And I think Kareem said it kind of, innocently, but Kareem, you never would have been able to do shit like this. Like, sorry, dude. Like, wow. I've seen you dribble, Kareem. Like, big men don't do this, okay? Big men do not do what Giannis is capable of doing in the open floor with his handle, his dribbling. Like, again, we've said it before, like Giannis's handle, his ability to go end to end and, just control his body and combine just the grace, agility, ferocity, athleticism. He's one of one, right? And so on a night when he puts up this monster scoring line and had a number of just these huge plays, let's be sure to acknowledge the fact that again, there's nothing normal about this. It's not because of an era. It's not because people let him do stuff. It's because he's, again, just a simply singular type force in this game. And again, let's just give thanks that we get to watch this guy play every game. And this has been just a really fun season. Continues. Hopefully we'll still be feeling the same way tomorrow night after the Celtics game. But I was DMing with a friend of the pod, CPT Diesel on Twitter, and he was like, "Is this the most fun regular season since the COVID shortened season? When they started 52-8?" And I said, in a lot of ways, this is more fun because they obviously have not been nearly as dominant this year as they were that year, but there's also like not the same like pressure. There's not the same skepticism of like, oh, well, Giannis has to do this in the playoffs and like, he won MVP. Prove it to me when it matters. He's done it, right? And so I think we talked about a lot last year, how last year we could come in and just sort of really enjoy the regular season for what it was, enjoy Giannis's greatness, enjoy people like Jrue, Chris, Brooke, all these guys, and not let, oh, well, but they got to win a championship to make it worthwhile. No, they've done that. Now we want to see them do it again. But, we gotta be able to enjoy these regular season games while you can. They play 82. People complain about the regular season, but nights like these, maybe not the most dramatic game in the history of the NBA, but all the same, a super fun one. And fingers crossed we'll get another fun one on Thursday night, but obviously it will be a much different type of challenge.
Well, I don't know if you could tell from my voice tonight on this podcast, but I was pretty fired up about a standard midweek win over the Indiana Pacers. And I'm even more fired up for tomorrow, this Boston game. Frank, I know you're going to get to a work call, so I'm going to keep paying the bills here and then push on, and I'll just look ahead to this Boston game. So feel free to drop out whenever you want to, Frank. Is it time?
It's about that time. And shout out to TJ McConnell, only 12 points on 6 for 8 shooting. Thank you to TJ McConnell for not 25 and 10 on the Milwaukee Bucks. It felt like 6 of 8 was like mortal TJ McConnell. So anyway, needless to say, I'm totally fine to not have to play any more Indiana Pacers games. I don't know if my heart could take it, but glad to escape with another road win tonight. Moved to 55-21. Pretty good spot to be in. And again, now just a matter of hopefully you take care of business on Thursday night, and you feel like you're going to be in a pretty good spot with whatever it is, a week left, week or two left in the season to hopefully lock up that 1 seed. So shout out to Giannis, shout out Jrue Holiday, shout out to Brooke Lopez, the Milwaukee Bucks. Enjoy Thursday night's game. We'll talk to you guys after it. Thanks, Kane.
All right. I'm going to continue to roll on. We'll have some thoughts about this game tonight to wrap it up. And then we're going to get to tomorrow night's game against the Boston Celtics, which, as I mentioned, I am starting to get really, really excited about this one. But first, FanDuel, we know they've been partnering the podcast here for a little while. The NCAA tournaments are heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which teams will be cutting down the nets. Now, regular season MVP Giannis, it's just still starting to tighten up. Jokic plus 125, Joel Embiid plus 125, Giannis into plus 320. That is coming closer. Game against the Celtics, game against the Philadelphia 76ers. So we may see some movement there with the MVP odds. But don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let's keep on rolling with the conversation from this game. One picture I have to bring up. Did you guys see this? The Bucks with their legs crossed on the bench. We've spoken about the fun that this team has had when they are playing and winning games, and on the bench they seem to get along so well. That was just a simply hilarious moment from this game. Now, Frank did mention the podcast I had about Jrue Holiday. Again, as I mentioned on that pod, go back and listen to it. I said there is no concern about Jrue. I still think his vitally important role to this team in the postseason is going to be on the defensive end. I think that's where he's going to win you some games. But we've seen that he can have nights like this. And I think, again, not needing it night to night from Jrue Holiday is important for this team. But he can have a 30-point night in the postseason. Tonight, obviously, was next level. But it's got me wondering, who else should I try with the old reverse jinx to get them into form? Brooke Lopez 0 for 2 from 3 tonight, which is funny because in this scoring explosion that he's been on, the three-point shot has actually been right down. He hasn't been taking as many threes. He's been getting into the paint and scoring at a really, really efficient rate with those two-point shots. So Brook Lopez, a watch there on the three-point shooting. And the other guy, Pat Connaughton had that one really nice game against Utah. But outside of that, he still just hasn't been able to figure it out. Tonight, he played 20 minutes, 0 for 3 from the field. So the struggle continues a little bit there for Pat Connaughton. And I think that you can see in his face that he's frustrated. And it's tough to watch because he has been such an important role player for this team. There's obviously still time for him to figure it out. But we're going to continue the watch on Pat Connaughton. So this game against Boston tomorrow, I can't wait. If we look at the standings right now, because of tonight's win, both the Milwaukee Bucks and Boston Celtics have played 76 games. So they've got 6 games to play in the season. The Bucks have a 3-game lead. So if you win tomorrow, you go 4 games up on the Celtics with 5 to play, but you also have the tiebreaker. So essentially, with a win tomorrow, the Bucks, they're going to be the number 1 seed. So this is a big game. Tonight was fun, but I think you not only got to keep the minutes low, but there's 3 guys that are coming back into the lineup tomorrow that I think we all looked at when we look at this roster and say, these are the guys that the Bucks are adding into the mix that you think can help you in a postseason series against the Boston Celtics. Chris Middleton, Joe Ingles, Jay Crowder. We suspect that all 3 of those guys are going to play tomorrow. 3 wings, which you need against the Boston Celtics. An interesting thing to watch will be the fact that I think Rob Williams is questionable for the game tomorrow, and Grant Williams. Grant Williams obviously has been a pain in the backside for this Milwaukee Bucks team. But Rob Williams is a fascinating watch because, as Frank mentioned earlier with Brook Lopez, Boston is one of those teams that can make it a little bit difficult for Brook Lopez if they go with really small, with Grant Williams at the 5. Al Horford, we know, has been problematic for the Bucks in recent years. And when Rob Williams is out on the floor, you do at least feel like, okay, you can leave Brook Lopez out there. So that is going to be a watch point for the Bucks tomorrow. But they now improved to 55-21. Just an unbelievable spot to be in. This was a really, really fun night for the Bucks. As you can tell, I loved it. I hope all the fans did. Jump in the YouTube stream, in the YouTube comments. Give us your thoughts about Jrue Holiday's night tonight, Giannis and the triple-double, and the historic nature of what those 2 guys did together. How much you're enjoying this team? Are there any concerns? And then, of course, your thoughts about this Boston game. And we're going to be back for a post-game show to lead everyone into the weekend tomorrow night after the Bucks and the Celtics. It's going to be a big one, no doubt about that. Check out the Locked On Game to Game podcast as well, wherever you get your podcast, news, stats, info, analysis from across the league, from the experts across the Locked On network, so you can get a nice little quick recap of the games around the NBA on a nightly basis. And there was a bit tonight. Philadelphia beat Dallas. So Dallas looked like they're going to miss the play-in tournament. That second-year Jason Kidd stuff really starting to take hold in Dallas. That's a Locked On Game to Game podcast on your Locked On NBA feed. As far as this podcast goes, I know I've been asking a lot lately, but we really appreciate it if you can subscribe on YouTube. We're really trying to boost those numbers. There's a bit of competitive nature among the Locked On hosts. This is a small market, the Milwaukee Bucks. We are batting above our average. We're doing a great job. The listenership is right up. We were in the top 5 across the whole Locked On network NBA last month for views and downloads. So we want to keep that up. And the only way we could do that is if you subscribe, follow, drop a comment, drop a like, and rate and review and all those things. So more people can find the show and more people can have fun with us. It was a fun one tonight. The Bucks beat the Pacers 149-136. Bucks and Celtics tomorrow. We'll catch you after.